you for the very warm introduction. And it is wonderful to be with you as current and future, as so much is going on in our world. And to make the world a better place for all of God's children, it really does take leadership and vision. So it's so good to see so many young people who are working to create that better world for all people. I would welcome a part of that. One of the most important things to understand about leadership is it does not require that one be a famous person or someone in the newspapers or on television or on social media. Instead, leadership requires only that you step up and get involved in making a better world. But leadership does require that you speak out for justice and equality. It means that you stand up for those who are less fortunate than you. It means that you provide an inspiring example of courage and moral decency in your family, your community, and your nation and the world. You don't have to, however, be famous to do this. Doesn't matter what kind of job you may have. You could be a lawyer, or a farmer, or a teacher, a student, or an auto mechanic, or a computer programmer. Anything. You can be an accountant and still be a leader. So, wherever there is hopelessness and despair, call for courage, hope, and love. I encourage you to revisit the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, some of which you've been talking about, I guess, throughout this process. Creating a movement to achieve these goals is a challenge that is most worthy of your time and commitment. Those 17 development goals, sustainable development goals, include eradicating poverty. Now, when you think about it, share with you, when my father led the Montgomery boycott in 1955, he was about 28 years old. So you all may be, what, 18, 19? Not much older than you. He was, and he was thrust on a national stage. He was killed by the time he was 39 years old. I was 10 years old in 1968. And he and his team, I might add, because it's not always about an individual, but they had done more in those 12 years than often some of us do in a lifetime. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to be a Martin Luther King Jr., but what I am saying is we all have a calling, and we got to find out what our own personal calling is, what it is that inspires us, whether it is fighting for climate change, whether it is addressing poverty around the planet, whether it is, and homelessness, and hopelessness, because people, when they lose hope, they pretty much lose everything. So we have to keep people inspired and find a way to ensure that hope is always available. I would urge all of you to get involved also in the political process. Now, in the United States, longer than my father, so I had a lot more time to spend with her. But my father said, in life, we must find out what our calling is. And when we identify that, we must do our jobs well. We must do those jobs so well that the living dead or unborn could do those jobs no better. He went on to say that in life, if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go on and sweep streets like Michelangelo carved marble. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets like Raphael painted pictures. Sweep streets so well, he said, that all the host of the heavens and earth would have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper that did their job well. Now, the historian Douglas Malloch captured it another way by saying, if you cannot be a pine on the top of the hill, just be a shrub in the valley. But be the best little shrub on the side of the road. Be a bush if you cannot be a tree. If you cannot be the sun, just be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. You have just got to be the best of what you are. That's our challenge in life, finding out our calling and being our best. Now, as I traveled with my mother, oftentimes I had an opportunity to go to her undergraduate school, Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. On that campus was a statue of the educator Horace Mann. And the inscription under that statue was the most profound. What those words said were, "Be ashamed to die until you've won a victory for humanity." That's crazy. I was 14 years old when I first saw that. I went back 3 or 4 more times because I had to break that down. How do you win a victory for humanity? How? So I said, you know, we can win a victory in our neighborhood. We can win a victory in our schools. Some of us may win victories in our places of worship. Some in our cities, some in our nations, and better yet, some may even win a victory for our world. But all those words mean are, be ashamed to die until you have done a little something to make the world in which we all must live a little better than it was when you arrived. Thank you, and may God bless each of you all.